Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a sweet and gentle girl named Cinderella. She was the daughter of a wealthy and kind merchant. However, after her mother's death when she was still a young girl, her father remarried a woman who was beautiful but cruel. The stepmother had two daughters of her own, and they were both selfish and nasty. After the death of her mother, Cinderella's life changed completely. Her father, too busy with his business, paid little attention to her. She had to live under the roof of her stepmother, and with her two stepsisters. They treated her terribly. Cinderella was made to do all the housework, sweeping, washing dishes, cooking, and tending to the garden. Every time she finished a task, her stepmother and stepsisters would criticize her, saying she worked too slowly and was not good enough. They called her Cinderella because she was often covered in ash and dirt from the fireplace. Despite the mistreatment, Cinderella never complained or held any ill will. She kept a pure heart and remained kind and gentle. Each day, she silently wished for a better life, knowing deep down that one day, things would change. One day, the king announced that there would be a grand ball at the palace to celebrate the prince's coming of age. The ball was to be a chance for all the young ladies in the kingdom to meet the prince, and the king hoped that his son would find a suitable wife. The news excited everyone in the kingdom. Cinderella's stepsisters eagerly began preparing for the ball, picking out beautiful dresses, styling their hair, and talking about which young man they hoped would ask them to dance. However, Cinderella was not allowed to go. Her stepmother and stepsisters mocked her and told her she had to stay home to do the chores. Cinderella was very sad, but she did not protest. She sat by the fireplace, silently wishing she could go to the ball too. Just as she sat there, suddenly, a bright light appeared before her, and to her amazement, her fairy godmother appeared. The fairy godmother, seeing Cinderella's kindness and pure heart, decided to help her. She waved her magic wand, and, with a flash of light, a large pumpkin in the garden transformed into a magnificent golden carriage. The mice that had been scurrying around the house turned into beautiful horses, and even the rat that had been running about became a coachman. Cinderella's torn clothes magically turned into a beautiful gown made of shimmering silver and blue fabric, and her bare feet were covered by delicate glass slippers that sparkled like diamonds. However, the fairy godmother warned Cinderella, "You must leave the ball before the clock strikes midnight, for when the clock chimes, everything will return to its original form." Cinderella thanked her fairy godmother and hurried to the palace. When she arrived, everyone was stunned by her beauty. All eyes were on her, especially the prince, who immediately found himself captivated by Cinderella. He could not take his eyes off her and quickly asked her to dance. The two danced the entire night away, feeling as though they were the only two people in the world. Cinderella felt like she was living in a dream, but she remembered the warning from her fairy godmother. As the clock approached midnight, Cinderella realized the time was running out. She excused herself from the prince, promising to return, and rushed down the grand staircase. In her hurry, she accidentally left behind one of her glass slippers. The prince picked it up and vowed to find the mysterious girl whose foot would fit this slipper. The next day, the prince sent his servants to search the kingdom for the girl whose foot would fit the glass slipper. When they arrived at Cinderella's house, her stepsisters eagerly tried to fit their feet into the tiny shoe, but it didn't fit either of them. Cinderella, who had been locked away in her room, was finally called down to try on the slipper. When Cinderella put on the glass slipper, it fit perfectly. The prince immediately knew that she was the one he had been searching for. He asked her to marry him, and she happily accepted. Cinderella and the prince returned to the palace and held a grand wedding. Cinderella's animal friends, who had helped her along the way, were invited to the ceremony too. The cruel stepmother and stepsisters, realizing what they had done, felt ashamed of their treatment of Cinderella. But Cinderella forgave them all, and they were invited to the royal wedding as well. From that moment, Cinderella's life was completely changed. She became a beloved princess, kind and gracious, loved by everyone in the kingdom. The people no longer called her Cinderella, but Princess Cinderella. She and the prince lived happily ever after in the beautiful palace.